No, that's not what it should show on the screen. How did that happen? I must have rebooted. Alright. Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill, and we're just going to go through some live code stuff. So, there's two things that I know that I want to get taken care of, and I might switch streams to get some work done too, but SSH Authorize, I've just wanted a utility for a while. It does a very simple thing. Just you give it a URL, it downloads the SSH keys, and then puts it into your SSH authorized keys file. And the other thing is creating VLAN templates for, I don't know if this actually shows up because I think this is a private repo. Okay, that's weird. Oh, I'm logged in. Huh, okay, that's why. Yeah. Oh, and then I need to switch over real quick. Let's get the chat up for the correct stream here. Okay, there we are. Let's see. So I thought that SSH Keyscan was the opposite. I thought that SSH Keyscan was grab stuff from remote server, not I'm on a server and I want to authorize it. What's slow mode? Oh, slow mode, interesting. What's up, Pro Slow? Go Pro Slow, yo. What? Wait, what's? But I'm confused. Anyway, so and then there's this VLAN mabob that we're working on for BNNA, which I guess goes a little bit outside of the home lab because it becomes the real lab. But we need to pre-template about 50 VLANs for customers so that as customers sign up, we don't... I guess we could do it with an API, but just to be quick and dirty, we're going to pre-allocate 50 VLANs. And we've considered other approaches because we could add firewall rules to each VPX, or that's what we're calling it because it's kind of a hybrid approach that we're going towards between QMs and CTs, but containers and VMs essentially. Anyway, so we need to just load some of those. Oh, SSH copy ID. What? You wanted to type SSH copy ID and you type slow mode instead? No, okay. Oh, slow mode is on for the chat. Is that what it's saying? Probably just because you're new, and I've had a couple of times some people have just bombed me, or the bad kind of rating, and so I may still have that left on from them. Yeah, SSH copy ID, yes, like SSH copy ID, but from arbitrary URLs. Yes. What's the best way to merge a feature branch to master, pull or rebase? Which one do you prefer? Okay, so not merging, never merging, always rebasing. So merging has been deprecated pretty much since about the time that GitHub came about, but because that's what they were familiar with, they implemented it with merges rather than rebases. And merging just makes no sense. It's really confusing to try to explain how merging works. Rebasing is really simple. You have some commits, you have some other commits, you put the commits in order. You're just saying, here's a branch, rebase so that these commits come code-wise come after these commits regardless of what date they were committed. Whereas merge, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just spaghettifies your commit history. So yeah, I always turn on, there is a feature that you can turn on if you go into settings, require contributors to sign off. I do that. There's a linear commits. I don't allow merge commits. I do allow squashing default to pull request style, pull request title. Always suggest updating. This one is not actually a code repository. This is just for to-dos. So we're kind of using it more like GitHub project, but whatever. Where is it? Is it under branches then? I thought the linear history was right here, but there is an option to require linear branches, which basically means do what the Git authors have intended you to do for the last 10 or 15 years and use rebase instead. There's a number of features, not that a huge list, but there's a few features that the Git authors have said, you know, oh, this was a mistake, sorry. And then people just did other stuff anyway. Merge is, the only reason that I would ever use merge is for a hard fork. If you have a hard fork of something, it makes sense to merge. But other than that, meaning that you are creating a completely separate project and occasionally you want to just pancake in some commits from the prior project. That's where a merge makes sense, because you're basically saying, look, there's just some code here and we're just going to kind of throw it in and hope it's okay. And then from that point forward, you should be able to rebase. As long as, if you do have to merge for some strange reason, you can fix that by just making sure that you rebase the merge into all the other things. Hey, thanks, Pavonis. Okay, where did that... Where rules... Is rules here? They changed it around again. They moved things around again. That's why I was having a... I don't know where it went anymore. There should be in here a thing for branches. Did they get rid of that for free accounts now or something? Or I don't know what happened. Oh, that's nice too. Automatically delete head branches. Okay, did they hide it under something? No. Am I in the right place? I'm in this repository. I'm under general collaborators. Oh, I need to get out my security key for that. Let me pop this out real quick. Oh. There we go. Add people, rule sets. New branch rule set. I am so confused. What happened to branches? Could not load branch. Maybe it's because I don't have code pushed here yet. Let me go to a different repository real quick. One where I do have code. Okay, I'm liking this jazz tag, by the way, on OC Remix. If you're liking it too, here's where it is. OC Remix. I prefer YouTube, but why not help you get the follower count up? Thanks. Here we go. Here's a repo that has pushes. Okay, there we go. Branches. Branch protection rule. And we're just going to do doesn't exist. So I always turn on pull request before merging. Require resolution before merging. So if somebody requests a change, require signed commits, require linear history. Require linear history means that you rebase. By the way, if you didn't know, I think I might have this up on Webby. There is, you can do git pull rebase. Let's search default. You can do git pull -- rebase. But you can also do git config auto setup rebase. Git config global pull.rebase true. This one right here. I'd recommend everybody turn that on. And it's hard to get people that aren't really familiar with Git, which seems to be most people, on board with rebase at first, because they're using the old deprecated merge for everything, rather than for the few specific cases where it's just an unavoidable tool that you need to pull from the toolbox. Because merge screws up all of your commit history every single time, And if you try to use get rebase after you've been using merge and you're in between branches, what will happen is it will try to go back to the first common commit that it can find, and it will try to rewrite everything because it won't be able to tell, because it's just merges are just, it's just code. There's no order to it. And so it's going to try to make an order out of that, and it's going to fail. And so you could literally have thousands of conflicts, which obviously you wouldn't go through. And the way you fix that is you just merge between all of your branches. And I was opposed to rebase at first, because when people talked about it, they talked about, oh, you could do this and you can do that and you can do that, and they went on and on and on. No, the normal rebase command is just the replacement for merge. So anytime that you would have used merge, you would just use rebase instead. So you don't need to worry about, yes, there's a lot of options for rebasing. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do. It has a lot of features, a lot of flags you could turn on, but none of that is actually important for the basic structure of what it does, which is you've got commits here, you've got commits here. You want these commits that are about a feature or some code, you want to bring them in after these ones. So you rebase from this branch, your main branch or your master branch. You're on this branch and you rebase this branch. So really what you're doing, I described it the other way, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're rebased over here, and then when you do your pull request, it'll fast forward, meaning that there will be no merge commit. It will just play them in the correct order. So it's kind of the opposite. I almost got in trouble in my company for installing a package which I guess somewhat hindered autodeploy. What do you mean by that? Okay, so I was going to go over here and get this one. So I'm going to get this onto webinstall.dev. I just added, webinstall.dev, SSHD prohibit password. Oh, whoops, sorry, it's beta. It's not deployed yet. It's in PR. Or, sorry, I guess, yeah, well, actually, technically it is, yeah, it is PR. PR is actually the correct name. It is a pull request. A pull request would indicate that you're going to rebase. So it's kind of strange that they implemented it using merge, but the name of it actually refers to what you would do with a rebase, because you would request that someone pull it in to rebase it. Anyway, so this is what I was working on earlier today. And what this will do is basically, oh, this doesn't do diff highlighting. I forgot that. But it'll make sure that password authentication is set to no. Permit root login it allows no. But if it's yes, it'll change it to prohibit password. And then if it's on Mac OS, then it will change use PAM to no. And the reason for that is that Mac OS uses PAM because it integrates with iCloud, it integrates with all this other stuff. And so by default, the SSH authentication goes through the system authentication, which could be, I mean, it potentially could have two-factor authentication in there or something, could have some sort of enterprise options, but generally you want to turn PAM off on Mac OS, because otherwise password authentication no will have no effect, and root login prohibit password will have no effect. It will still allow you, well, I don't think you can log in as root on a Mac. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if I've ever tried. I always log in and then switch. But anyway, so there's that. So that's what I was working on earlier. So let me go ahead and get back into beta here. And I'm going to go into, I've got a next branch because I'm layering these things. So what I like to do is have a deploy branch that functions more like a tag. If I have a couple of features that are building up that haven't yet made it into main, then I will rebase those features into the next branch and have that as the active branch until it's approved. So this is essentially my staging environment or beta environment, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so I'm going to create SSH authorize, and I already did get this partially done over here. So I have, where's SSH? There we go. So SSH keys. So there are, I think I want to make 2 commands with this. SSH keys and SSH authorize, or get keys, because you should allow comments and white space in an SSH file, but some APIs don't allow the comments to go in. And the funny thing is, of course, they still copy it into the authorized keys file. The cloud service, the deployment service, whatever it is, they still copy it over into the authorized keys file, which allows comments and white space, but they and their API don't allow comments or white space. And so this function right here is going to be important. This I already did earlier, because basically what I needed to do was say, okay, we're going to deploy, or we're going to provision a new instance, and so I want to fetch keys from this URL to provision the instance. And let's see, SSH authorize, we'll call this SSH authorize, and I'm probably just going to duplicate this function. Set-e, set-u. For those of you that don't know, all of your bash functions, or sorry, not bash, but, well, your bash functions as well. I don't use bash, I use POSIX shell, which is a subset of bash, but it's the subset of bash that works across Windows, Mac, Linux, BSD, Nintendo, PlayStation, thermostat, airline, media center, console, Tesla. You know, it's the common scripting language that works on everything. And more importantly, Docker, Alpine, it's the common scripting language that's the subset. So I don't even like to use the brackets for the if, because I find that a lot of people don't know, that I didn't know for a long time. The brackets are literally an alias. They're like a symbolic link or a function alias to the test command. And so I just use test because it's easier to read. It's easier to understand, because when you see the brackets, it looks like it's a programming language, but it's not. So I don't put that on. Okay, so queso. I like to say queso. Where was I going with this? Yes. Yeah, I need to start using this more. I've run into problems with deployments where there's a curl that's doing a thing, and curl doesn't necessarily time out. I've had this happen both with curl, and I think I've had it happen with rsync as well, if I remember correctly. And then here we don't want to get rid of the K. Why was the K there? The K was probably there for... That probably needs to not be there. I think that's because I was doing this for the home lab, and the K means that it won't send the server name indication on BSD systems, and that basically it doesn't verify any aspects of the certificate on BSD systems, and on Linux will ignore bad certificates. Oh, the reason this is here, and this is okay and it makes sense for the most part, other than that case where this actually should have been moved out, is that I was designing this for running against an internal API, so it did need to use HTTPS, but it didn't need to validate the certificate because it was a self-issued certificate. But I actually need to change that, so I'm glad that well, no one else has seen this. It's just an internal tool, so, but I will need to change that. Alright, so our pub keys. and then we're just I'm gonna copy main here. And I actually have this, so because the shell is weird and there's a lot of mistakes that you could make that are non-obvious, I prefix all variables with my and all functions with fn, and this is to be a signal to me that it's local to the script and not global. What is it complaining about here? Probably nothing. Yeah, sometimes it's just left over until you hit save. Alright, go do this. You should add curl ops so you can add in whatever. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing, right? I'm just creating a command curl that has all these things in front of it. And I don't use all caps for local variables. So I use fn as a prefix for functions, because otherwise the thing is, when you're looking at a script, there's so many different commands and there's so many different environments and there's so many different things. When it's got the fn in front of it, you know, okay, that's something that's part of this script system. It's not something that's a custom installed command or whatever. It's just a nice visual cue. But I could have my curl ops here, and then I could just add at the end of this my curl ops like that. But this is how I'm doing it right now. And so this will test to see if it's a file or if it's a URL. It won't allow HTTP URLs, of course. And then what is main gonna do? My pub key, pub keys, and then what do I do with the pub keys at the end? Oh, and then I pass those into the create script. Yeah. So the provisioning API for Proxmox, it says that it's an SSH file or an SSH keys file, but it doesn't actually. It's not. It's a new line delimited list of SSH keys, which is the subtle difference, but it is a difference. Yeah. So this, and I'm also going to put the usage and the example in there. I always like to have help in the thing. All right, we're not going to do that. And then I got to update this script for VLANs as well, which I don't think I'm going to do right now. And then this would be there, and then we're going to have this. Does that have a failure mode as well? I think. All right, my keys URI, my keys. So it accepts, so it could be a string or it could be a file. So it's going to test if it's a file, or it's going to be the keys themselves as a string. And then, all right, and we're going to run SSH pub keys, and then we're going to, I could probably put some comments in here for what these do. Test if the key did we get a URL, a file, or a string? And maybe that, I don't know. Oh, okay, wait. Let's return. And then with this one, clean up non-key lines. All right, let me check over here. I see that looks clean. Thanks. Yeah, over the years, I've developed a lot of methodologies, and I'm still refining them. I think in the last 3 years, I've gotten even more strict about the way I do things. I've always been pretty principled and, well, maybe not at the very start, because I just didn't know what I was doing. The first few years, I tried to copy what I saw other people do. And then the last 3 years, I've kind of abandoned every industry practice in favor of what I know works best. Not abandon, just realizing that most people do things wrong. Most people are not familiar with the basics or the fundamentals of what they're working with, and they don't write things or create things in a systematic way. And as I have found systematic ways to do things, I just do them that way. And it takes me further and further away from the mainstream. But I feel like I write better and better code that's easier and easier to work with and debug. And as I've shared these tips with other people, I've often gotten feedback. Oh, hey, I saw that thing you did and I did it at work. And at first somebody gave me guff about it, but then it worked out really well for this situation. And now everybody recognizes it's a good way to go. And yes, it is. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, well, we write good code and we write bad code. We can't write good code all the time. We have a mix, you know. So I spent, I don't know, a good 40 hours writing, probably more than that, writing some really crappy code recently. But it was very exploratory. I didn't know what I was doing when I started. Let's see, examples. Let me go grab this. I've got to get out of the habit of typing Vim. I need to be in the habit of typing VI, because I'm working on too many systems that don't have Vim, and I don't actually want to install Vim. And I don't actually need Vim. VI does the job. VI is a POSIX standard. Now, if I'm going to do any significant amount of work on the system, I'm going to install Vim. But when you install Vim, VI will open Vim. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dot, dot, dot. So is it? I think it's just github.com. Let me. Yeah. Oh! What? They strip off the comment? Curse them. How am I supposed to know? Yeah, I don't want to use that. That's obnoxious. So we need to be able to add a comment to this. Just looked up the Vim official site and felt like the early 2000s. Back when websites loaded quickly and the buttons and the things were clickable and there weren't cookie banner, email subscription, some other thing that I don't know why is here. When you could load it on a phone, well, we didn't have phones that would load them, but you can load websites like that on a phone and they load perfectly and everything is usable from the phone as is, just with pinch and zoom. It's refreshing, isn't it? Just imagine what we could do just by changing a couple of color options. Let me go to Vim. Is it vim.org? No. Wait. Yeah. Look at that. Links with underlines? I don't like how he's such a fan of US government propaganda, but what do you do? Sorry, not sorry. Nine times out of 10, flying the Ukraine flag just shows that you are ignorant sheep. Sorry if I lose 100% of the audience at this point. But what I mean by that is, this is, I don't even know how to explain it. You can just listen to what the people say. You know, you like, don't look at what people say on Twitter. Go watch the video conferences or whatever, you know. Just I'm sorry, I don't normally go too heavy into politics, but hey, it's my my channel. I can say things that I want to say, and these people can throw up their banners and whatever. So, but it's just, supporting the war in Ukraine is literally supporting a war. You're not supporting Ukraine, you're supporting a war. It's similar to the 9/11 thing, right? It's something happens in Afghanistan and so we start bombing Iraq. What? Like, the two things aren't related, but because there's something that's easy for people to latch onto, and it makes sense at the moment because there's this emotional response. So I take it back. I don't think that well, it is ignorance. It is the dictionary definition of ignorance, but I'm ignorant about this stuff too. I don't know all of what's going on, but it's similar to the 9/11 thing. We're being told one thing and being given another, and if you follow the money isn't doing what you think it's doing. It's yeah. Anyway, Dus, just want to say I appreciate these videos. I'm a dev, wannabe, and seeing some work get done on the fly is pretty cool. Respect. Thank you. I punched the monkey ad banners. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh, one of my favorites was the one for the old trick used to be the webcam thing, where it was the cow, and people didn't have webcams yet, but it would say, you can download a free webcam or something like that. That was the gimmick, and it was, I don't know, probably just installed spyware or malware of some sort on your computer, but you would stare at the screen and it would show a picture on the screen, and it would say, hold tight, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it would show a picture of a cow or something. So kind of the old meme of you look like a monkey and you smell like one too kind of thing. So and it was funny and it was cute, and it could have just been developers goofing off. It might not have been malicious, but we have to assume it could have been malicious. Anyway, I think I will reorder these. Kind of want, can I shave off? I want that to line up so it's easier to understand and interpret. Okay, where can I lose some characters so that these line up? There we go. And then, can I make this one longer? Okay. Oh, but then that makes it... Okay, but it's not going to be too long in the end. Yeah, because I wanted these to line up so it's clear. Oh, and actually that almost fits perfectly there. I wonder if I could just shorten all of these by a few. Hold on, let me try it. Because then I could get this to line up. Almost. Let's just go with me. And then we could do... at me.example, maybe .com? No? Example.co, maybe? I could do that. I don't know how else I could shorten it. Or, actually, maybe, could I just get rid of this part? Nah. Let's leave it. I know this is silly, but if I get it to all line up, then when you look at the documentation, it's clear this is that thing, this is the comment, yada yada. And then if I do that... Perfect! Alright, looks good. Taking it to the bank. OG trolling. Gotta keep it real. If you can't roast your friends, you don't have friends. Sometimes when you roast your followers, you don't have followers. Alright. So that's what that looks like. And then I think we're going to have another error condition. Where did I have this? Do we have another failure condition somewhere here? Okay, so I guess it can be empty. In this case, it can be empty. But here, if it comes up empty... I'm going to say this. We're going to do echo. Now, check this out. If you wanted to go to standard error, with echo, this is how I finally remembered it. You're redirecting it to the pointer, to the reference of standard out. So normally, or not, sorry, standard error. So normally, you do standard out, say, goes to dev null or file or whatever, and then standard error goes to dev null or file or whatever. Or you could say standard out and standard error go to whatever, but you could also say standard error goes to standard out, or you could say standard out goes to standard error by giving it a pointer reference. That finally clicked for me, because and means a bunch of things, and in scripting you don't generally think of pointers. But in this case, that's what it's behaving as. When you're doing a redirect, you're taking a pointer to standard error. So anyway, so if you want echo to go to standard error, you do this. And then I like to try to do error and solution blocks. So solution, So I'm going to say error, and then we'll say what the error was. 1, 2, 3, 4, error. Can we have... Could that fail? So that should fail. We actually should go... Wait. I think the failure mode needs to be handled not... The way it was before was right. It should just return out of here because if there is anything at any time, we still need to strip away the nonsense, which I think this in of itself needs to move too. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to say if, and then my pub key, my pub keys. I kind of want to just call this, I'm literally going to call this key stuff. Somebody give me a better name, because pub key is actually less descriptive. And I could call it key or URL or file. Like key entity. So test-z, Z stands for zero width string. That's why you do test-z. By the way, I'm using Vim Essentials. And more importantly, it's schwumped. I'm using schwumped and shell check. And even if you're using VS Code, key thing, in all seriousness, do you think key thing is a better name than key stuff? Because I'm willing to switch. So let's see here. Vim Essentials, schwumped, and shell check. Schwumped and shell check should work with VS Code as well, I think. Well, they will. I'm not sure if it works out of the box or if you have to have a plugin. That's what I mean by I think. I'm not sure the nativeness of it. Helix editor, pre-configured Vim written in Rust. Sounds interesting. I have a lot of years of very, very slowly built Vim muscle memory, so I'm not likely to switch to something else. And I've also, over the years, curated the simplest, fastest plugins for the things that I need to do. You'll notice I don't use autocomplete most of the time. I have to return this Mac Studio because they just announced the new Mac Studio. I just got this, and so I haven't finished setting up this computer yet because I'm going to get the other one in a couple of days. I'm not going to finish setting up this computer. But I do use some small degree of autocomplete for Vim, but it's not part of Vim Essentials. But the autocomplete that I use is very sparingly, and that's because it's so slow, and I hate VS Code. I hate things that pop up in my face. I'm trying to type something, and it's popping up in the way of what I'm trying to look at. Because I'm looking up and down the file, I'm referencing the code as I'm typing, and so most of the time I don't like autocomplete. I do like the autocomplete that I get with Go in Vim. It's usually helpful, but again, it's really slow, so I only use it when I need it. Because I type faster than autocomplete. Shell check, schwumped. SHFMT. That's important. Shell check and schwumped. You need to add a formatter and you need the binaries installed. It's gravy. Okay. They use Vim key bindings for Helix. I could check it out. It's just my setup is very lightweight. Vim Essentials is my setup. So if you want to program like I program, you install Vim Essentials. There's a few things I do outside of that. Vim commentary, but if I use it, it's on Webby. Okay, so pub keys, why is this complaining? Because it's unused. So I was going to test for my pub keys. Okay, so if this didn't work out, then I called it URI before, which is kind of the right thing. So we'll say this. And we're gonna have two error blocks, error solution blocks, and then you'll notice I always wrap everything in a function. And my functions, that you won't see as many people do this, but the way that you ought to do a function when you're writing POSIX scripts and bash scripts, shell scripts in general, is after the opening curly, you put a paren. And the reason for this is that it actually gives you scope because it creates a subshell. So every child function has its own scope that can work independently from the parent scope. Now, it's not entirely that way because it is still possible that if a variable was not set, how does it work? There is some condition where you can set a variable at a higher level, but generally speaking, when you have the subshell, it prevents that. So all of your variables become local variables. Local is not part of the POSIX standard. So you can do local like this, but that's not part of the POSIX standard. See, you see right here. In POSIX, local is undefined. So, but if you do this, if you do the subshell, then you're good. Okay, so we're going to test key stuff. Error. Not a valid key, string, file, or URL. Let's just keep with like this. Solution. There we go. So being as nice as we can. And I think that this could actually be moved up. Because why would this be empty? Actually, this should move up. It is a minor... There's an edge case. There's an edge case where my keys could end up being empty. But you don't want the... So, for example, if the URL... Say you've got caddy serving your key file. And caddy... Well, I think that we have the -f. No. Caddy by default. The default configuration for caddy, which drives me up the wall. The default configuration for caddy is 200 OK with no content. If you just start up caddy. And that has bitten me a number of times, and that's the edge case where before we get to this point where we're figuring out what it is and what to do with it, we should know that it's not empty. Because if it is empty, when we didn't expect it to be, that's a failure mode. So I would say this. We're going to run else. That's not an else. Alright, let's pull this out. I'm just reorganizing this so that it's cleaner. Alright, so we need to have an error message here. Now, we could not have a dependency on SSH pubkey, but when you install SSH utils, you're going to also install SSH pubkey. So, and there may be some nuance there that changes over time. So I'm just going to keep it there as a thing. All right, so we don't need that to be my keys. We need it to be my key stuff. So if not empty my key stuff, so we also need my pub keys equals nothing, so that we've provided scope for this. I mean, so you don't have to have scope for it, but so the funny thing is, POSIX scripting is a lot like JavaScript and Lua. The way that the scoping works and everything is actually quite similar. Functions mean a little bit of a different thing for scripting. You need to have a subshell to have function scope, but essentially you can have function scope. Seriously, POSIX shell, JavaScript, the good kind, JavaScript, the good parts, not all this ECMAScript, C# wannabe, F# wannabe nonsense, and Golang. Learn those languages. And Zig. Those are the languages that you should learn. Because you'll learn simplicity. You'll learn the things that you need to know, and you won't get distracted by the hoopla. Well, in JavaScript you will. In JavaScript you'll get distracted by the hoopla. That's why you need to be learning Go or Zig in tandem. And if you're learning POSIX shell, the way you learn POSIX shell is you just put bin sh up top, you have shell check and schwumpt installed, and then you just type into a file. And you know, and if your editor is set up so that it enables the plugin automatically, like what you get with Vim Ale and Vim Essentials and hopefully VS Code, you just start typing in the file and you just learn by errors. That's how I learned POSIX scripting, because there's no good resources for learning POSIX scripting other than shell check. You copy and paste from Stack Overflow, and then shell check tells you that it's wrong. And shell check is one of the best things I've ever. I wish I had shell check 10 years ago. I don't know if it existed 10 years ago, but I would not recommend anybody start learning shell scripting without shell check, because it's just there's no point, and it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Hold on. I'm a little slow, but we're getting to it. All right, checking out some comments. I've given Vim a few tries, but it takes too much time to install the plugins. Essentially, you build your own. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Check out Vim Essentials. You don't need to spend a lot of time installing plugins. You just need the basics. If you're going to keep to Vim, keep it simple. Keep it fast. There's too much that you could possibly learn about Vim. It's a universe that's too large. Stick to the basics. Stick to the things that you really need. Don't try to get all of the cool widgets and gizmos. Just get it so that it gives you error messages whenever you save. That's what you need. I just know how to use Vim if I really have to, but I never felt comfortable with Vim. Helix is surprisingly fast in places where other editors are not. I don't use it because I'm far too stuck in the Vim ways of doing things, and it's never quite the same. Yeah, that's probably where I would be. What's up, tech support? If I wanted to keep it simple, I'd use Helix. Okay, what's in my paste buffer? My keys is in my paste buffer. Wait. I think I just got these in reverse order. What did I just do? Okay, my pub keys. My pub keys. Another thing I do to make things easy to pipe and use in other programs is the output that I would want to use in another program is the output that I put to standard out, and a lot of the messaging I put to standard error. So if I think about it and say, yeah, this program ought to be pipeable, then the pipeable bits go to standard out. And the user diagnostics, the error messages, but not just error messages, stuff that I would not want to pass on goes to standard error. I've replicated almost the exact same configs in NeoVim, IntelliJ, VS Code, so I just jump between editors depending on my mood on a given day. If you cared to replicate Vim Essentials in NeoVim, I could become a NeoVim fan. I like the candy, but what I don't like is there seems to be so much focus on the candy that I don't know how to just get my basic plugins working and installed. I just want my basic error checking. That's what I want. And if I get some candy, cool. But so far, the plugin packs that I've seen for NeoVim, it's just all candy. It's all filler, no killer. And so if I could get my Vim Essentials replicated in NeoVim, I could switch to NeoVim. I don't dislike. I mean, it's neat. I don't know that I really would say that I'd want to require having a GPU accelerated Vim, but it's kind of neat that all the 3D effects in a terminal. It's neat. I don't dislike it. It's just I need the core value there first, and the fluff comes after the core value. All right, I keep on forgetting where I am and what I'm doing. I don't mind the conversation though. Okay, so queso. A case of queso. Okay, so we can get the pub keys there. We can get the default key. Right, I wanted to copy the error message. No key was given, and SSH pub key is not installed. And so this is why I transitioned away from the Oxford comma. I once dated a girl pretty much on the basis that we had a common bond over the Oxford comma. So the Oxford comma is that when you have a list of things, you put a comma before the or, the final or and. That's the Oxford comma. But I've gotten rid of it because when I want to provide I often want to provide multiple lists of things. So this set, that set, that set. And semicolons aren't a thing anymore because semicolons would have been the appropriate use for this. We could have used a semicolon. But I think semicolons have been removed from English. I think. Could be wrong about that. But if you don't use the Oxford comma, then the trailing comma leads you into the next list of things. Or clause. So provide a valid keystring file or URL, comma, or I will check those comments in a moment. I don't know how I feel about that. This is gonna seem weird. There's something I'm struggling with. I can't tell yet why I do it this way. I have not yet been able to articulate what my brain is pattern recognizing on. But to me, this is an else with a nested if. It's not an elif. Actually, I take it back. I think that's what it. I think that is what it should be. But I don't know why. I can't articulate what my brain is going through that it wants to say these are logically separate. Because I'm kind of saying, yeah, it feels weird to join them. But at the same time, when I look down here, it doesn't feel weird to join them. But here, this feels weird. This feels better to me. But I can't articulate why. Because it's kind of, I'm looking at this condition specifically. And I'm saying it's if this or else it's something else. It's not really an else if, because the next if is a different type of condition. It's not strictly related to this. But I'm going to let that one go. That's a waste of my time anyway to think about that too much. Okay. So now I can say I guess technically all of that could be... Yeah, it's fine. I exit one. I should return one there, not exit one. Try to avoid exit. It's generally a code smell. At my pub keys. Test. So we already tested... that, so we don't need the key stuff here. Then we get rid of all these. Jazz was a good choice. This right here is, well, you can see it now. That's the nice thing. Whoops. It's not quite as high up as it should be. But you can see it now. So if you wanted to... I don't know how well you can see it. Yeah, you can see it well enough. You can read that, right? Yeah. Rebecca E. Tripp just does all the good stuff. I see her name over and over and over and over and over. All right, so I think this is right. Oh, and then there's this bit here. Like I said, I think this actually needs to move out. I think we do need to do print F. Because of the way that white space is handled, that's why print F. Yeah. So we test all this. And then I kind of want to put a flag. I don't really like putting flags in scripts because that just doesn't feel quick and dirty enough. And scripts should be quick and dirty. I guess I just need to get the muscle memory for writing the case statement. Oh, there's a Pukey? Ah, yes. So, look. I need to make sure this makes it onto the new computer, but this is where pub key should be in my spell. And URL should be in my spell. Thank you. RSA should be in my spell. Okay, my keys. I'm not going to pay attention to this error right now because I think that it is keying on something that is wrong in the first place. Yeah. Sometimes shell check doesn't do a great job of scoping. I mean, it does a pretty great job, but not a superb job, but it does about as good of a job as you can do with POSIX scripting. I am going to get to comments, but I need to finish up this thought process while I'm in it. I see there's a bunch of stuff there. I just happened to glance at that spelling one. My eyes just happened to land on Pookie. Okay. Oh, this was... Okay, now I see why I did that. No, this was wrong. That's what my brain was doing something correct. My brain indeed was doing something correct. Now I can articulate why my brain was telling me to do that, because it was literally the correct thing to do. I guess we could say we could put that in a final else, but no, this is right. Yeah, because otherwise I would have been overriding my pukies, or pub keys, as it were. Okay. And then... Alright, I will take a pause to look at comments here. I have two versions, one with Candy and the other is just my old setup, NeoVim. There's a ton of overlap between NeoVim users and Unix Prawn users. I will have to check out Unix Prawn. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie, shall we? Oh, wow. Game Boy terminals? No. I'm closing this right now. I'm not looking any further. I don't have time for that. If I were to leave my computer unlocked and someone did that, I would not be upset. It's lots of eye candy for terminals and stuff. Been leaning heavily towards using semicolons again, at least of the last 3 or 4 years. In English or in code? Because there's a big difference there. This band sounds a lot like Thank You Scientist. I will have to check out Thank You Scientist. You have to let me know, because it does say down there what it is. You might have to actually... Well, if you're on your phone, it's probably a lost cause. But if you're on your computer, you could probably do it. I'm guessing that Thank You Scientist, from the name, I'm going to guess that it's something similar to Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, They Might Be Giants, Presidents of the United States of America, one of those. What are you working on? Yes, I'm working on a script called SSH Authorize that is going to take from a string, a file, or a URL, take the keys from that, and then put them into .ssh authorized keys. That's what I'm working on. I don't know what progressive rock is, but I need to listen to... Well, prog rock seems to get thrown around mixed with other things. There is a prog rock Ocarina of Time album, but I think it's metal prog rock. And you're saying jazz prog rock, which seems weird. But I'll check out Thank You Scientist. Okay. Which reminds me, when I was... my comment. Whoops. I do want to make sure that the comment gets in there. I'll put that in eventually. Okay, so... I want to do this 2 ways. We're going to do my clean keys. And then we're going to do... So we're going to do my pub keys safe and my pub keys trimmed. So my pub keys safe, we can keep the comments. And we can have empty lines. I wonder if there's another way to just trim empty white space. That should happen. I wonder if we were to use echo. There's a reason I used printf. And I can't remember all the reasons that it would be. Probably has to do with the amount of white space that's preserved. which I don't know that that matters in this case. I may have used printf. Let's see what happens if I just take my current keys file. So let's do SSH authorized keys. And let's pipe that to echo and see what happens. Really? Hold on. Ah, okay, if we just do it like that. Let me try this and just plain old SH. Alright, there's that problem. Okay, plain old SH was too much. Let's at least try dash. Oh, no, let's not. We'll go with bash. Okay. So what if I alter this? If I just put a bunch of spaces in it, that's... Oh! I know I used printf because there are things like backslash characters that could be interpreted, or there shouldn't be backslash characters. I think there were some characters that could be interpreted, but when you do it with printf as a %s, they're guaranteed to be literal. Yeah, I don't recall what the edge cases are with this. But I want to see if this will happen to preserve new lines. So set no number, so we can get rid of the number. Okay, that was wrong because it added extra spaces. What else is wrong here? Alright, I'm going to get rid of all of this. Why is this suddenly not working? Okay, so that's working again. How is that different from what was here before? Oh, there was one space, and that one space got removed. Okay, got it. That's the difference. So when I copied it, just a little goof over with the copy. All right, so now we're saying it can start with... Can we do that? All right, great. Or it can be the end of the line. Yes! Okay. Can we do this? Looks like it works. Cool. All right, so this is what we're going to use then. And I'll get back to comments in a second. So this would be safe. I actually don't want that, though. Well, tomato, potato, might as well. Alright, and then trimmed. I don't even know why. That was unnecessary. Exclude comments, but then I'm already defining that this must start with that pattern. So that's fine. So if it's a zero-length string to have my pub keys trimmed, and then we're going to take my pub keys safe, and we're going to do echo into SSH authorized keys. But of course, we need to check. If not test -exist .ssh, then dir I probably should be able to do some sort of test for the mode. And I know that you can do a touch where the touch has the mode, but I tend towards the simplicity of knowing fewer commands rather than knowing fewer options, more commands with fewer options. Do one thing and do it well. We already have a command for changing the mode, so we don't need the touch command to include the mode, although it does make sense because of the way the syscall works. As you create the file, you might as well determine what mode it is, but in terms, when you get all the way out to the scripting level, there are some timing attacks against this sort of thing. I actually know somebody who did a responsible disclosure when he was in his 20s. He did a responsible disclosure to Apache and to a major hosting company and to, I think it was WordPress, showing a vulnerability with a timing attack on changing permissions of a file. And they blew him off, and then he released the proof of concept after the time period for responsible disclosure, and just, it pretty much took one of the companies down for a week. Because when he released the proof of concept, then a bunch of hackers took it and used it against WordPress instances and gained access to, I believe it was in the realm of thousands of servers on this one particular company. But you're not worried about that sort of thing in a shell script usually. But yeah, I thought, when he explained it to me, I thought it was kind of kooky. And he said, no, it's real. It's a practical attack. It's real. The nanoseconds matter. And then he set up a demo and he hit refresh on the web browser, and the web browser said, happy, 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 and then, you know, red, all caps, hacked. So it was demonstrable. All right, and this would not have a 7, sorry, this would just have a 6. And then we'll do the printf again here. I don't remember why, but that's what we're going to do. And then if non-empty my comment, then we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do this, and then my comment, we're going to put that in first. And actually what we can do, this is something I learned about recently, which actually makes a lot of sense, is if you have a block that you want the output to go out to the file, you can use, this is not a subshell, it is just an output expansion. So all the stuff in here will get evaluated, and then the text will go out to the file as it goes out to the file. So I prefer to use this over, I'll use this with a bunch of echoes, so you can see here. I'll do that. In fact, I could probably, I'd have to test this, but I could probably take this bit right here. That would probably work. In fact, I'm going to try it. I hadn't thought about doing that before because, again, thinking about pointers is weird, but that whole block should work. And then the same would be true here. I'm going to take this whole thing. Because that's going to capture the block, and then it's going to redirect it after the fact. And I think we come out net 0. Yeah, I like that. I like that pattern. That's what I should have been doing. There we go. I learned that from shell check because there was something I did and it said you shouldn't be doing. I was having multiple lines in a row that went out to the same file. But anyway, I do this because I like to keep the alignment, and I prefer to keep the alignment than to have the first line at one indentation level and then all the next ones down to the EOF at another indentation level. It just bugs me. I would feel better about it if it was just, you know, all goes back, but I don't format code either. I let things like schvumped. I let whatever the default formatter is for the language format it. So if I'm trying to do something and I don't like the formatting of it, I just drop it. Okay, let me get back here. I feel like you would like Genesis or Yes from Thank You Scientist, especially the earlier stuff. Hello, Sleepy Mushroom. What am I working on? I am working on a utility let me see. I popped this up. This one? Yeah. This is the description, SSH Authorize. I'm creating a little script called SSH Authorize to be part of SSH Utils for... there we go. Paste in the link. So basically, I want to be able to do... let me go ahead and put this here as well. Oh, back in the days when I used to use Bash. When I didn't know no better. So, string or file or URL. Usage. See? Autocomplete. I hate it. Okay, so I want to be able to run this command, and I want it to be able to take whatever I gave it and then put it into the authorized keys so that I can authorize a key. So I have my own authorized keys thing there, as you can see. That's a real URL. And I think I'm done. I think I've written it. So now to test it. So what I need to do, and I got to be cautious about this, is I need to test it. I need to test it on a system where I can afford to lose access. So we're going to go with this one because I can re-enable access from the console if I need to. So I'm going to delete my... First of all, let's see what my authorized keys file looks like. Okay, not much anyway. So we're going to delete my authorized keys there. And that's fine because I can easily get back to this. And then I'm going to run export webbyhost equals https beta.webinstall.dev and then webby SSH authorize. Oh, okay. I don't actually have the install script yet, doy. So what I need to do is copy from SSH. First of all, I have a unit of work done. At the very least, I need to stage it. That way I don't goof up of work. Because I'm about to make a copy, I could slip up and copy right over top of my work. It'd be the worst. So I'm just going to throw in a README. That's the wrong README, of course. And I'm going to throw in a couple of install bombs. We're just going to do... I'm not going to redo that in PowerScript right now. But if somebody wants to do it in PowerScript, that would be awesome. Just translate it line for line into PowerScript. Or not necessarily line for line, because I'd prefer it to be idiomatic. Try again. Okay. I remember what I was doing here. There is one thing I want to change around. We don't call it the default key. What do we call it? Identity file? So, actually going to get rid of that. I'll leave that one alone. That's not a case that can happen right now. Yeah, SH unit tests. I don't know. Google has them. It's something that's really hard to unit test because you don't really have modules. So you can't split out some functions into a module. You can kind of do... There's a little bit of trickery you can do with main, but not really. What you could do is you could set an environment variable and then source it. So you could set an environment variable such as test. So let me show you how you do this. So you would say if non-zero, the N stands for non-zero, bugs me so much that that's a double negative. But you could say SSH authorize test. Or include or something like that. So you could do this. So then from your test, you could source it to get the functions, but just not call main, and then you could test the functions individually. That's what you could do. And then that does give you the ability to call main as well and check the state. Then you gotta break down main a bit. There's just where you are doing inputs and outputs with the function. Yeah, that makes sense. What? But we need to do something else to check that we're testing the failure modes properly. Okay, let's build this like we were going to unit test it. It could get really complicated because this is really clean and easy to read. But imagine that you wanted to make this unit testable, so you turn these into variables and you have a function that creates a file and you give it a particular file. It's just, yeah. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it be. But I could take pretty much this whole section and turn it into a function and then test. But like I said, then I would have to... I'd have to do SSH dir and then keys dir, which I could do that. But it seems like it's more of a pain in the butt because this also isn't something that you're constantly evolving and developing, right? It's you run it, does it do the thing? If it does the thing, you're done. It doesn't have a lot of modes to it. I forgot to do that at the end. Okay, so now I done broke it. Oh, whoops. Not if not empty, if empty. Okay. Actually, I'm going to change this one. So now, though, there should be an authorized keys. Should have the correct permissions. Yep. And it should have... Oh! Surprisingly, it does not have an entry in it. I thought... Let me take a look at this again. So I think that this is... This makes sense. This is fair enough. Watch this. Be amazed. One, two, three, four. That didn't work the way I had anticipated. Ah, I know why. So I would have to do redirect standard error to standard out on this. Ooh. That didn't work out the way that I had anticipated that it would. I think what that may have done, we'll see. I may not be able to get this to do quite what I want. I have to change tactics. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change tactics on that one. Am I supposed to? Let me try putting it before. Nope, it doesn't like it. Okay, default identity file. We'll do this, local identity files. And then I will do for my pub in do done, and then what you have to do is before? None. All right. So that would be a break, and then this one would have my line. This would be my pump file. Let's call it pump file. Or just my file. And then we'll get rid of that check there. Oh, darn. Was the reason that thing didn't work is because I forgot to put the print F. I forgot to put the... There we go. I forgot to put the trailing new line. So maybe the other one would have worked. Local identity files. Let's have this happen much sooner. And then we also need to handle Alpine, where it's wget, not curl. So that'd be wget dash O, like this, right? Wget options. Yeah, this jazzy stuff was good. Let's see, do we have timeout? So timeout is 15. I have that. Okay. Ew, gross. Can we tell it which options? wget TLS 1.2 or 1.3. I don't know. Is this comma? Because basically I want to say 1.2 or higher. I don't want to force it. Eh. I don't have wget. Let's see. So I got a timeout. So can I put a comma? Okay. Can I do 2 of them? Looks like I can specify it twice. There we go. Okay, that looks like that works. So let's try that. There we go. And now we're happily respecting any Okay, where was I? usage, examples. Oh, we need to update the example ever so slightly. Let's try that. And then we're almost done with this. I'm my best keys. What? Oh. I see what went wrong there. I actually do agree that key thing is better than key stuff. So I'm going to take that suggestion. Thank you. I don't remember who that was that brought that up earlier. But cool. So there's two more things I want to do. One is show what we've excluded. So where was that funny grip? Oh, whoops. Okay, echo. Okay. Warning. Following Alright, let's see if I can recreate some invalid lines. So invalid.pub. Good. Bad line. Good. Trying to think, how could I read by a whole line? Alright, successfully copied the above. I don't like that. That did not work. What happened? Alright, what did I Oh, does T not exist? No, T exists. Oh, whoops. thinking about something else where I was using T. This needs an or true. That's what was going on there. There we go. All right, good. This is great. All right. I think the only thing I want to change about this is I don't want this trailing new line. This is actually awesome enough to deserve its own repo. I did this for the DuckDNS one. Let me reference that real quick. I'm going to leave it for now, but I'll have that as a to-do. So the install.sh works. So let's copy that over. And then let's see. to your SSH authorized keys from a string, file, or URL. Does the tedious work of making sure your .ssh authorized keys exists with the proper permissions and that only valid keys from a given string, file, or URL go into it. Well, that's a little weird. Okay, there we go. Actually, that should be like that. Should update that over here. What's another 3-letter name that everybody knows? Chris, John, Matt, Sam, Joe, Smith, Doe. Joe could work. You. There we go. Oh, can I get it? Ah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, that will bring it out. There, now it lines up perfectly. I like it. Oh, wait. Oh, dang it. But that doesn't line up perfectly now. No! Okay, so if that's you, hold on. Wait, how does this line up perfectly? That doesn't line up perfectly? No, it does. Yeah, that's the way of it. Okay, I'm going to go replace that text. second while I finish out this thought process here. Arbitrary URLs. Arbitrary URLs. Let's see here. Setting permissions correctly, even if they are incorrect. Or wget. Forces HTTPS. Okay, now let me read that. What is a good approach while making a controller folder? Is it object, APIs inside it, function-based, or arrow function-based? What? That is, I don't understand the question entirely, but I disagree with the premise to some degree. Okay. So, the concept that I came up with was I think I called it Israel. So, there's... Dang it, now I don't remember. Basically, like, it's basically a replay of the MVC ASRL. Is the interaction layer, the routing is its own. Routing is its own thing. Routing deserves to be one piece. But other than that, basically, it's packages. So it's interactivity, it's storage, that's S, and then L was the logic, the business logic. That's how I would organize it. Not necessarily around... Because I think that what they originally meant to do was just a separation of concerns. But most of the time, what you really want is package scope, not breaking things all the way down into atomic pieces so that you've got one function per file and then a folder with a collection of functions. No. Solve a problem. So have a folder that's the user folder that does the user stuff, and I think the biggest mistake, and there's a ton of people that agree with this that are more on the engineering side of things. I think that's actually become the predominant view on the engineering side. Don't use abstraction layers for the database, or at least not like an ORM. because you're not going to swap out your database. That's not what you do. And if you're going to build your database in such a way that you can swap it out, then you're literally not going to take advantage of any of the unique features of your database. So why would you make it swap outable? Because the idea that you would swap out a database would be there's a database that's better for some reason. But if you're going to use an abstraction that's so abstract that you literally can't use the benefits of your database, then you're obviously not going to swap it out for something better because you're not even using what you have. So that I think that's the main evil of our day, is the idea of that a model is to a database relationship mapper. I think that if you look at SQL C, this is pretty much the ideal. I think SQL C is the best thing that we have. It's not perfect, but it's the best thing we have. And it's not just type safe Go. You can do it for arbitrary languages, but it started with Go. I wish that they would have kept to Go, but since they didn't, you can output it as JSON. So what you do is you write SQL like this, and then it converts it out to JSON. And then you can read in that JSON, and then you can generate your code from that. So you could generate the functions, and it will do it for you for Go. It'll generate the Go functions, but you can adapt it to JavaScript. You can adapt it to Node, or you can, they have some other languages. I think they support Python now. Again, I wish they wouldn't, but I wish they would have just stuck to what they're good at. No, I think that going out to JSON was a good idea. But I wish they would have just stuck to Postgres, because Postgres is the only database you need. You don't need MySQL. MySQL is not a good database. It's popular because of WordPress, but the people that designed a lot of these things just didn't know what they were doing. Whatever. Anyway. So, ask me clarifying questions. But I definitely take the package approach. So there's a very, very short book called Effective Go, or you can watch the talk Simplicity is Complicated. So all of this is on creedsofcraftsmanship.com. So we just go creedsofcraftsmanship.com. Whoops. Copy it by the URL there. So you can take a look at these things. But I'd recommend Simplicity is Complicated, How I Write HTTP Web Services After 8 Years, is there anything else that comes to mind? Effective Go. Just reading, and again, it's about Go, but it's not about Go. It's about software engineering. And yes, there's a lot of things that they did in Go to make software engineering easier. But if you read through here, there's a lot of stuff that is going to be adaptable to your language in terms of why to choose to name things a certain way. Also, if you're in for a nice long one, Dave Cheney's software engineering talk is 3 hours long, but it's a good one. It depends on your use case. Bah! Well, some of it, yes. Much of it, yes. If your goal is to do WordPress, then you're going to do it the WordPress way, whether or not that's good. If you've already decided on a framework. But again, Uncle Bob's Clean Architecture. Give a listen or a read. I listened to it. Uncle Bob's Clean Architecture. Talks about basically the framework should be one of the last things you decide, and you may find out that you don't actually need a framework. Yeah. To some degree, you'll end up creating your own framework. But if you do it cleanly for your application, it will be better. Problem is doing it cleanly for your application. But the whole idea is a very agile in the true sense of agile, as in the Agile Manifesto, not related at all to any of the Agile books that you would get. Because the Agile Manifesto and the principles of Agile software, this is it. This is the whole thing. There is no book for Agile. Someone else took their words, and I believe Uncle Bob is one of these guys. Let's see if I can pick him out. Yeah, Uncle Bob right there. I don't know which one of these he is with the mosaic there. But if you follow the Agile methodology, you may very well find that you don't need a framework and that you make good design decisions as you go. But frameworks are really good to, I think they're good to learn with. It's good to bump up against the walls of them and then kind of feel the pain and then realize, hey, I could do this in a simpler way. But it takes years to get good at it. So if I'm creating user APIs, should I make one object inside an object that define all the APIs, or define a function for each APIs, which is good? Again, I don't quite understand what you are getting at. That completely depends on what the relationship of things are. I will say that, again, Zen of Python, flat is better than nested. Whoop, no, that was the Zen of Zig, or Zen of Python. There we go. Zen of Python. So flat is better than nested. So try to avoid hierarchy. It's been a while since I did this presentation, but this is Zen of Programming. That is me explaining the Zen of Python and then giving some examples for it. Uncle Bob is overrated. I might have to ask you to leave. Uncle Bob is not overrated. I think that people, the pushback is that you can take things to the zealot extreme, but I don't think it's like when you say a general rule and then people say, but there's an exception. Well, yes, there's an exception to every rule, and so people push back on Uncle Bob because he's got a rule for everything. Sometimes you break the rules, but you break the rules intentionally. Frameworks do not make things easier. I'm gonna give that a hard no. They don't make things easier. If you are doing exactly what the person who built the framework is doing, then you can replicate their success quickly. But it's not necessarily, there is some amount of easier to it until it isn't, and then it's much harder. Because as soon as you hit the rails of the framework, you hit against the rails, the guardrails, or the edges of it, then it becomes exponentially harder. So I think that it's good to learn with frameworks because you get to observe patterns and how they're implemented. But typically your software, unless you're not doing anything of value, your software is different from other people's software. So you're going to need a different system. And that's one of the things that in clean architecture, it talks about that and kind of delineates it a little bit. He's talking about implementation code of an API, but that doesn't make sense to me. So that is so broad. That is the same thing as saying he's talking about programming. API is application program interface. So I'm assuming he's talking about a web API, he's talking about a RESTful API, but what does it do? It is highly use case specific, right? My general rule of thumb would be try to organize things by a package, try to organize things by a unit of work, and to try to keep things not so nested. reduce the interdependency of the system where you can. Rather than passing options in, call methods in multiple places. Is the package the same as a module? They can be interchanged, but in Go, in particular, a package, the wording can be interchanged. It means similar things across different languages. In Go, a package is a folder with a namespace, and everything in the folder at that same level is one package. But the reason that you create a package is to fulfill a complete unit of work. So you wouldn't necessarily have a user package, because a user could do a lot of things and they're not necessarily related. But you might have a login package. So there's database elements. It's kind of like the idea, if you went by not the way that people do it in practice, but what's on the presentation slides for React, the idea of a component is the idea of a package. It's a complete unit of work that has the bits and bobs that are necessary to accomplish the work without being concerned with bits and bobs for things that aren't related to the work. Now, the way that people implement it in practice, the conference slides and the implementation are way different. I feel like in the Go community, there's a lot better adherence to that. But so user login could be a package because there's some database stuff, some storage that needs to be there. There's some logic that needs to be there. There's some interfaces that need to be there. But you don't have to have everything to do with a user, and you don't have to do everything to do with every type of authentication or cryptographic system. You can scope it just to be about the bits and bobs that are about the login system, and then you could compose that. And then your user would be probably things that are just really, really tightly related to the user. And you could have a user package. And then you could have, say, an employee package that might use the user package. That could make good sense. But you organize things more based on functionality rather than by type. So again, I think this is a common mistake. I think that people that are on the engineering side of things pretty much at this point nearly unanimously agree that it's a mistake. Organizing, well, this is a database file, so it goes in the database folder. That's organizing by category of type, not by function of job or work that needs to get done. Every aspect of your application has some sort of storage, almost. So the storage belongs to something. And there are cases where it crosses over with it. Okay, sometimes in software engineering they talk about generalization and specialization. What do they mean? I heard something like a T-shaped developer. I don't remember. Oh, the upside down T. Yes. Okay, so that's different. That's not talking about programming. That's talking about coming into your expertise. So when you get started, you want a broad base. You want to understand how, basically you want to understand the basics. You want to understand the fundamentals. And the basics and the fundamentals are very, 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 very difficult to get good resources for, because there's very few people who know them, and there's very few people who can teach them well. So this is really difficult to do, and so it often comes by trial and error. But if you're able to, you'd want to get expert knowledge on fundamental things. So, for example, knowing that HTTP is a text protocol, knowing that networks are just sending text files and binary files across a wire. Understanding that, having enough understanding of the things that you use every day to know that they're not magic. that you don't just hand wave them away. So that's the base. You want to understand some stuff about databases. You want to understand some stuff about just general file storage, about folders. You want to understand stuff about escaping strings. You want to understand stuff about how programming works at the most fundamental level. Loops, recursion, meaning a function that eventually calls itself, whether or not it calls another function first, but a function or system of functions that calls itself as part of what it does. So that's the base of the T, because it's an upside down T, is basics and fundamentals. You want to have a very broad understanding of basics and fundamentals to the point that you know how pieces connect together. And like I said, it's usually a trial and error journey to get there, because you very rarely have someone who knows that, and very few people bother learning basic things. So it's you typically gather it by trial and error. For example, with POSIX. POSIX is the most basic scripting you can do. And it wasn't until the past couple of years that I learned it well, right? But then specialization is you pick a few niches and bring them together to decide what it is that you really want to do and market yourself. So you could look at this as you are learning Go, for example, or Zig or Rust, or some language that is a modern language that has benefits that other languages don't have. Something, you want to get some sort of niche where not everybody you talk to knows this. So the counterexample would of course be React. Everybody knows React. Nobody knows it well. It's completely impossible to distinguish one React developer from another. So React would not be a niche. Now you could find a niche within React, but some languages in of themselves provide a niche. And then some sort of topic, some sort of thing that you do. So maybe you do IoT. Maybe you do cryptocurrency. Maybe you do architecture, API architecture. Maybe you do authentication. Maybe you do storage. But you pick something that you become particularly well versed at, and you have a few things that come together. So you're a Go developer who really, really understands the storage layer. Or you're a Rust developer who really, really understands IoT. So you have some, and that is your specialization. So at the beginning, you can't specialize. I mean, people tend to try to do that, but you can't really do it because in order to specialize, you have to have a broad enough base to have the context to understand where the specialization is going to go. Actually, it's not that they specialize. It's that they pick only one thing and then don't specialize in it. So it's like the exact opposite. People often tend to, right now, for example, it's React. Before it was PHP. And then they just do all the things, but they don't actually know how to do anything well, and they don't understand the basics. So they've got a bunch of fluff up here, and then they're very myopic in terms of what the foundation is, and then just lots and lots of fluff. New frameworks, new this, new that, just lots of new stuff, but no foundational understanding. So that would be like the V-shaped developer, as opposed to the upside down T, which is you have a broad base, and then you've got a specialization. So hopefully, does that help? Does that answer things? Now, where was I? I was just putting a message down here. think that's about it. I'll call this one good. Oh, we need to add readme. Whoa. Oh, and then I need to, hold on. There was something else I wanted to do. Oh my goodness, it's already 3. I guess I'm not going to get around to it. Oh, I put this up on the wrong screen. You're welcome, Startup Builder. And I'm sorry if, well, this, you probably didn't notice it, or you, I don't know, shouldn't say probably, I don't know. I do have a level of contempt for our industry, which I'm sure that comes across from time to time. It's not really with the people that are on the lower rungs. The people that are on the lower rungs are the symptom of the problem of the system. I have the contempt for our foolish leaders, our sophomores. That's what I have the contempt for, because they are often people who are crazy intelligent and yet somehow dumb at the same time. Which, I get that, because there are things that I do that are stupid. Well, how do I explain this? When you... we all know people who are smart that are dumb. And we all have moments where, in an area of our smartness, we're an idiot. I think most people have had that. Well, maybe not most, but many, a lot of people have had that type of situation. And I just get frustrated with these people who they would surpass me in an IQ test. There is a depth of their knowledge that surpasses mine in many areas, but they don't get simple, obvious things. It's the street smarts / common sense stuff. It takes a true genius with patience to be able to really solve problems well. And again, that's where I have so much respect for the Go authors, because they, and I'll reference back to Creeds of Craftsmanship again. What was it? I think toward Go 2, what about mature optimization might be one. We did what we always do when there's a problem without a clear solution. We waited. Waiting gives us more time to add experience and understanding of the problem, and also more time to find a good solution. That, when you have the genius, but you also have the wisdom to wait, that is the pinnacle. And that is not something we see among most of the tech leadership. We don't see this type of attitude. We see complexity upon complexity. If a problem's too complex, add another layer of abstraction to fix it. It's not going to fix it, because adding abstraction to abstraction does not reduce the complexity, it increases the complexity. there is some sort of trade-off level where adding a layer or two of abstraction can reduce complexity. But when you become deeply nested in your abstractions, then you've reinvented the complexity from the opposed plane. Anyway, by the way, Josh, just a couple minutes ago, and I think earlier in this, there were some things that could turn into some good clips. I'm gonna tag you right now in the oh yeah, I was gonna work on the home lab stuff too, but I mean this is part of it. This is going, the SSH Authorize is going into that. Good and amount of files, URLs, system folder structure. It's good. It's ready. Okay, so there's our next branch, and then I need to get this over to Ryan and JoJo. It lives! By the way, I haven't done this in a while, but this pops up in the chat every once in a while. Remember, if you like what you like, you get more what you like. So consider like, sub, follow if you want to. Let the one who guide you. And also, there's a link to the Discord. It's been pretty silent the past couple months because I have not been streaming on this channel very much. I've been mostly focused on the Dash stuff, but this was a good stream. We had a complete project from beginning to end. This was SSH Authorize, and I'm not going to do the VLAN one. I'll save the VLAN one. I'll try to get it in tomorrow, maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because I asked Ryan if he could do it, and I think he said yes, but I don't know if he's really got the time for it. So I don't want to step on his toes if he can do it. And let's see, are any of these ready to go in? Okay. just double check on this. Alright, so that one's been approved. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. Get switch main, base. Alright, Y. Did I not get an approving review? Okay. Take a look at this. Alright, so I've got a bunch of reviews required. Okay. Alright, I am going to do one more thing because oh, it's 3:30 a.m. I need to feel nice and fresh tomorrow. But this is going to... Okay, I'm going to time box this. I'm getting my timer. I'm going for 20 minutes. No longer than 20 minutes. I mean, that's basically going to put us towards 4, but I don't think it's going to take that long. So I'm switching topics now. I'm going to do the VPN stuff. Or not VPN, VLAN stuff, sorry. Let me go find that real quick. Where did it go? Okay, it's over here. So let me see, do we have the OpenSense VLANs? We need to have some powwow, dagnabbit. Okay. I just need to have 2 sections created that goes through this, and it makes the thingy do a thingy. Okay, get switch, next. Oh, was that? Ah. Actually, one more thing. This is only... Alright, there we go. So, add SSH Authorize. So as part of this, we need to update SSH utils. I'm going to actually put this up at the top because I figure if we do it alphabetically, our chances are better. It's still going to come into conflict, but whatever. SSH authorize, SSH authorize. Yeah, I'll have to redo these in alphabetical order. Oh, and that also will need to have an SSHD bit to it as well. Let me make note of that real quick. To do. We're not going to mess with that one. SSH authorize. Alright, that's fine there. And then oh, and then readme. Adds keys from a string, file, or URL to SSH authorized keys to allow login. Oops. Public SSH keys. Also performs various checks to prevent errors. To allow the owners of access to the system there, I'm going to put that in. Get switch next. Okay, so that's done. Now we're going to do, so basically in OpenSense, which is a router / firewall that you can add, you could do a lot with. It's pretty interesting, and it's not, OpenSense is not too complicated. pfSense is really complicated. It just has a terrible interface. OpenSense is pretty easy to get through the menus and understand what's going on. But it allows you to create a router that has multiple networks. So if you wanted to have a guest network at your home, or an IoT network more in particular, it makes it pretty easy to do that. If you still have to know what you're doing. It's not easy like something like Ubiquity. It's not easy like that. But it is easy-ish. Anyway. I'm going to just call this OpenSense stuff. We're going to put this in the issue. But I'm going to create this in JavaScript. Do I have Bun? Let's try this with the latest version of Bun. This should be a good candidate for Bun because there's nothing interesting that I'm going to be doing here. It's very, very sanitary. Alright, so already 5 of my minutes are gone. Let's see if I can do the rest of this in 5 minutes. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. What's the difference between get switch and get checkout? So switch works on branches only. Switch does not work on files. So there was basically bunches of people, myself included, probably you included, we either make mistakes or run into errors with get checkout. You know, where it says ambiguous reference and then you have to put the double dashes, that sort of thing. Ugh, I hate this. Okay. So, what I do is let ops, and I think I should probably just make this a function. There is a way to just turn this into a straight template function, but I don't remember what it is. And actually, I don't even know if that's what I would want in this situation. I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. Wait, what was this supposed to be? How many spaces do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I don't like it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, I'm going to do 4. Let I equals, we're actually going to start with 6, and then I is less than 56, I guess 57, I plus equals 1, I do ops dot push, let opt equals ops dot create, put in there, and then we're going to push opt, and then we're going to do the same thing with rules. So this is going to be rules.create, rules.push rule, and then we're going to pass in, one of the things we're going to pass in is index, which is going to be I don't think we're going to, yeah, we are going to pass that in here as well. And another thing we need to pass in, I don't know if there's anything else we need to pass in, actually. So we take this maybe we can have this be, I think we can have this be 1106, and we can have this be 1157. And then here, this is going to become op.index. And then this is also going to become op.index. I guess we could call this, instead of index, we could call it VLAN, because that's what it represents. And we could make those two different. We could make them the same. Let's go ahead and make them different, just so it's more generic for the future, but not in a bad way. Just because I may decide that I didn't want to do it that way, and that's going to be fine. And then the interface, so this is going to be op.iface. And so then down here, I'm going to do let iface equals, and then we're going to pass in iface, iface, and we'll do the same thing here. In fact, I think I should probably have just done a better job there. Okay, and then customer will be op.vlan. And then, so we're going to have to figure out this number is going to be op.index. Okay, so I'm changing my mind again. So we're going to do this. Let info, sorry, dumb name, but we're going to go with it. That way I don't have to keep on copying these things over and over again. So for VLAN, we're going to do let VLAN equals I plus 1100. Why is it giving me all the red? Let is unavailable. I don't have the right config file. Can we just... Alright, did it give me config files? No, dang it. Okay. Great. That's what I needed. Now, will leave me alone a little bit. Now it's leaving me alone a little bit. Okay. So enable is 1, 10, 11, subnet. All right, that's all good. And then for this, node crypto dot random UUID. So we're just going to call that. And you can see, if you look in there, notice in not the first set of numbers, the second set of numbers, but the third set of numbers, it starts with a 4. And then in the fourth set of, not numbers, but digits, characters, it's 8 or greater. So this is 4. That means that it's random, or it's version 4. And then this being greater than 8 means the high bit is set, which means that it's some subset of version 4, which I guess is the particularly random subset. Okay, and then so that would be that. So here we also have opt, and then here we're going to have opt.index, and then here we're going to have opt.vlan, and then we're going to have opt.index here again. And then we're going to have the fact that this is set. It doesn't really make a difference. I could put the time there and then divide by 1,000, I guess. I don't know how it has 4 digits of resolution. I don't think that's how milliseconds work. And that's not how nanoseconds work either. You don't have 4 digits of resolution. Maybe the last digit is just a counter. Or maybe that's how they roll. Alright, and then console.info, ops.join, and then console.info, and then rules.join. So that's all I needed for this. These are just the I created some firewall rules. Very, very simple. Basically, I just needed a router because the VLAN layer is at the network layer. So we don't have to have a whole bunch of firewall rules. We just establish a VLAN, and that VLAN needs a router. So all we're doing here is saying opt means it's open sense for interface. Like it's called opt instead of being called interface. And so those numbers should be arbitrary, but we'll go with the index there. And then we could do that as well. We could just call this one. I probably should, for clarity's sake, I should probably not mix terms. If I want to copy the same thing over in a bunch of places, that's fine. But if they are discrete, I should name them discretely. Anyway, so yeah, we just need to take whatever the interface is. Well, the opt is a virtual interface. It's not necessarily a physical interface. It's a usable interface. So we have the physical interface, and then VLAN, and then whatever VLAN we're doing, and then customer. And we don't have these customers yet, but it's either figure out how to do it with the API so that every time we add a customer, we add these things and then apply the changes. And it's kind of a multi-step process because you have to add the interface, then enable the interface, then you have to add the rule, and then you have to apply the changes. So it'd probably be multiple API calls versus I can just do this in a text format, I can put it in our file, and then I can upload it, and then it should work. So, but given all of this looks right. Yeah, and then we could provide a real name or something. DNA script made changes. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do now S. So watch this. Let now, how about opt.time? Let now equals date dot now divided by 1000. Let now S equals let time equals now dot to fixed 3. So if we do okay, good. Yeah, so that's going to give us minimum. So we do 2 fixed 3, and we can pass time in here. And my timer's going off, by the way. I'm going to finish this up. I'm pretty much done with it. Okay, so time 0. Well, I guess we could just do 2 fixed 4. then we could put a username at whatever. I'm going to leave that as is for the time being. I'll go with opt.username. Okay. Oh, and then the corollary question to what's the difference between get switch and get checkout would be what's the difference between get checkout and get restore. And get restore only handles files. So get switch only handles branches. Get restore only handles files. Okay, so then if we want to do this, hold on. This would be gateway. So we could do opt.gateway. And then I'd go down here and I would say gateway. And I would just put that right here. For index, we could just do I. There we go. So, and then subnet would be 24, yeah. So we could just do opt.subnet. And of course, we want this enabled. And then, is there anything else we want to change here? Oh, and then, yeah, we'll do username. Okay, so now if I run this, that's it. I'm just gonna lie. Tell Ryan I couldn't sleep. It's not too far from the truth. But when he says, "Hey man, why'd you do that? Why'd you do what I was gonna do?" Oh, hold on. Did I run this with Node? Silly me. Let's run it with Bun. Do you see how much faster Bun is? You can really feel it. I'm going to try to start using Bun as my primary. I haven't been because reasons. Well, because it didn't have the features that I needed for the type of stuff that I was doing. Put it in the issue. Yeah, there we are. Set number. Good. Okay, now I need to go over here. See, I thought he said yes, but then I don't know what happened to it. Alright, well, I'm out, y'all. Hey, thanks for tuning in. It was a nice stream. I really appreciated all the conversation. Although I think we're kind of in a place where now most people are gone to sleep because we're in that dead space between the two oceans where people got to sleep and it's the weekend. So I'm not going to raid because we lost. Well, I'll check and see. Let's see who's on Twitch versus who's on YouTube right now. We got it only. I'm seeing one on Twitch, so if you really want me to raid, I could do it, but I feel like it's more embarrassing to raid with one than just to not do it at all. And none of the people that I follow are on right now. So, alright, I'm out. Y'all have a good night. Catch you later. Adios.